All right, let's dive right in. In this explainer, we are going to follow the money. We're going to trace the path of public funds, every single shilling, all the way from the national treasury right down to the services in your local community. So let's see where it all goes.
You know, it's a question that really hits close to home for all of us. That new health clinic that just opened up, or the road they're finally paving, or that water project in your area. Where does the cash for all that actually come from? Well, it all starts with one powerful rulebook.
Okay, so before a single shilling is even spent, we have to understand the rules of the game. Here in Kenya, the entire system of public finance is built on some really powerful principles that are written right into the Constitution itself. This is the foundation for everything that follows.
And right there, that's the core idea. This isn't just about accounting or spreadsheets. It's about a vision for the country. The Constitution makes it crystal clear. The whole point of managing public money is to build a society that's fair and equitable for everyone.
So you can think of these principles from Article 201 as the system's moral compass, right? It says that finances have to be open, the public has to be involved, revenue has to be shared fairly, and every single cent has to be used responsibly. These aren't just nice suggestions, they're the law.
So, with those principles as our guide, we get to the first big action, dividing up all the revenue that the national government collects. The best way to think about it is like one giant financial pie that needs to be sliced up.
This visual here really shows us that fundamental split. All the tax revenue collected across the entire country gets pooled together into one big pot. Then, it's divided between the two main levels of government, the national government and, of course, the 47 county governments.
Now, the biggest slice of the pie, a whopping 85%, stays with the national government. This is the money that funds all the national responsibilities. You know, things like defense, foreign affairs, and major national infrastructure projects.
But this is the number that is so crucial for our journey today. A minimum of 15% of that national pie is set aside to be shared among all 47 counties. This is the money that's going to directly fund all those devolved services, like your local health clinics, agriculture support, and county roads.
So that begs a really important question, right? How do you take that 15% chunk of money and divide it fairly among 47 different counties when each one has totally different needs? Well, that's where a few key institutions, the gatekeepers of the system, come into play.
First up is the Commission on Revenue Allocation, or the CRA. Think of them as the expert financial strategists. Their job is to dive deep into all the data. They're looking at population, poverty levels, land area, all sorts of factors to come up with a formula that recommends the fairest way to share the money among all the counties.
Now, while the CRA makes these expert recommendations, it's Parliament that holds the ultimate power. They're the ones who turn these suggestions into law, and they do it in two absolutely crucial steps. First, the Division of Revenue Bill officially carves out that 15% share for all the counties. Then, the County Allocation of Revenue Bill breaks that down even further, specifying exactly how much money each individual county gets.
It's also important to know that not all the money sent to counties is the same. The main pot of cash, the general revenue, is for standard services in all 47 counties. But there's also this very special fund called the Equalization Fund. It gets 0.5% of the national revenue, and it's specifically designed to tackle historical inequalities by funding basic services like water, roads, and electricity in marginalized areas to help them catch up. All right, so once all that national money has been divided and allocated, it finally lands in the county's bank accounts. But the journey is far from over. Now we need to look at how counties manage these funds and, believe it or not, how they even generate their own money.
See, counties aren't just sitting back and waiting for a check from the national government. Nope. They also have the power to generate their own local revenue. This comes from things you're probably familiar with, like property rates, business permits, parking fees, and other charges for services they provide.
And of course, money doesn't just spend itself, right? This is where the human element comes in. Each county government builds its own public service. We're talking about the doctors, the engineers, the administrators, and the planners who are actually hired to put these projects into motion and deliver services to the people.
Okay, so we've followed the money from the very top all the way down to the people who are spending it on the ground. But how do we make sure it's all used properly? Well, this brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of the entire journey, the watchdogs who are there to ensure accountability.
One of the really smart things about Kenya's constitution is this idea of shared institutions. The whole point is to prevent either the national or the county governments from operating in their own little bubble. So there are several key oversight bodies that have the power to monitor both levels of government.
And here are some of those crucial watchdogs. You've got the Auditor General, whose job is to audit the books of every single government entity, national or county. Then there's the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the EACC, which investigates corruption at both levels. And critically, you have the Controller of Budget, who has to approve any withdrawal of public money, making sure it's legal and was properly budgeted for.
And there you have it. That's the complete journey, from start to finish. We've seen how public money begins with these big constitutional principles of fairness. It moves through the allocation process with the CRA and Parliament. It gets spent at the local level, and it's all watched over by these powerful shared institutions. It's a full circle, designed from top to bottom with checks and balances.
So on paper, the system is designed for equity, for fairness, for accountability. But the most important question isn't how it looks on a slide, it's how it's working in reality. Now that you know the process, now that you know how it's supposed to work, you can ask the critical question. Is this system actually delivering for your community? That's the real test, isn't it?